and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you please do roll call?
Barb Reagan.
Here.
Bill Herring.
Here.
Ralph Knapp.
Here.
Jason Gilliano. Michael Brickner. Andy Maletta. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Can you go through the consent agenda, please?
Consent agenda has your approval of minutes for June 25. Also included are your May minutes as corrected, just for your reference. Financial report and approval of claims and the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. South Haven CHIP update. Do you need that?
It would be helpful because the proposals are on there, but you received the proposals in your packet. I can talk to the cost of each proposal until they can show up if that's acceptable.
Okay, why don't we do that?
We received 3 proposals to gather the land data for the South Haven CHIP based on the Stormwater Department's mapping of the parcels and the parcel numbers to try to determine interest in terms of property owners for development of the land. Matt Evans presented a proposal. It was $120 an hour, maximum 40 hours, $4,800. Nick Summers presented a proposal. He had 2 options. One was 0 if he became the if he entered into listing agreements with the 13 property owners, depending upon their interest. His other proposal was an hourly rate of $150 an hour, not to exceed $30 hours, or $4,500. Tim Brust from William Steiner submitted a proposal at $100 per hour, between 20 to 25 hours, not to exceed 3,000. The lowest and most responsive proposal was from Willie Steiner and Tim Brust.
And your recommendation?
I would recommend Tim Brust, the lowest and responsive, and he is a commercial realtor that specializes in his career in the development of vacant land, and also he has an extensive history in the banking industry, which
I'll entertain a motion.
I have a problem here. If I turn these off, which I usually do, my hearing aids don't work.
What?
Yeah, sorry about that.
We're having a technology problem everywhere right now, aren't we?
Unless you got good music.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
I'll entertain a motion.
And the proposals were in your packet.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see it?
Yeah, that's on.
Intraceable. Go with the lowest
Good.
bidder.
Okay.
Need a motion?
Need a motion, yes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the proposal from Tim Brust with Willie Steiner. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
There's a sign up there already on property for sale up there, right next to the gas station. You guys know that?
I think I heard that.
Talking to Matt Evans, he said he's involved in sale of property in the northeast corner of the city.
Do you know, Mike, did they extend it, did he sell it as commercial real estate or residential? I think it's
Whatever it's on, but
it's residential now.
Is it PPG Chambers? I'm not seeing PPG from my phone.
I think they changed it.
I have PPG here though.
Sure.
Let me try it again.
I'll look that up one day.
Okay, can I see it?
Northeast corner is residential. There was 2 outlots next to the gas station that were commercial.
The guy owns 58 acres and he's got a strip right next to the gas station.
He does. And there's at least 2 outlots next to the gas station to the west of the
Okay,
gas
now I need to
station
look again.
that were part of that original tip.
That's where I saw the sign.
Yeah, so those could be, that's a good sign.
Sure, yeah.
Mary Jane, other ways to do that. I was driving through South Haven and I noticed there's facade grants that are done. There's a new building between the Burger King and the shopping.
Nothing, that was PCG.
That gets captured in it too.
Oh, there it is, there we go. Okay.
It's a pretty substantial.
Yeah, it should be, but I don't know that it pays tax.
I don't know either, because I believe it's a school.
Is it?
I don't know if I'm ready to say, oh, we're not. Or if it has another
Perfect. Can
exemption.
you just leave this here?
But it-
But there's some activity on the south side of the road.
I know, I'm the only one that'll, so I can get, I need to get my stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good.
Yeah,
Thank you, and
that-
Ben's coming for,
Yeah, he's gonna have to with the way it's set that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
all righty, very good, thank you so much.
Yep, yep.
All righty, do we have anything else under the South Haven tip update?
Other than, I have 2 items that I just wanted to make you aware of. When we did a search of Stu's files, we found a Baker Tilly a tax impact statement for the proposed industrial park that we were previously looking at. And then we also found a proposed economic development agreement for that industrial park. So in terms of having something to look at in the future, when you get the results from the gathering of this land data, there's something to look at that was prepared by Baker Tilly in the past.
Dan, have you seen that information?
I have not. I have not seen the information.
Maybe share that with me.
And it's yours.
Okay, we've got our guru here, so hopefully we'll be in business.
I don't know why we locked you up like that.
Industrial park, and the South Haven.
Gotcha.
Benjamin, it's saying no internet.
For you? On your computer?
For PCG, it's saying no internet.
Oh, I was just changing up ours.
Should we start the conversation about Woods Edge?
Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about under the South Haven tip?
I did not.
Okay, good. All right. We can. I apologize. Trying to get connected here so I can see everything. Let's see if I can get Ben to get this to work for me.
So here's the, whenever you're ready, let me know.
Go ahead.
This is Woods Edge, a location map that we talked about. Joliet Road is here. Skyline Road is here. Pardon?
Hazel Energy's on the east side, right there.
And then this is,
That's it.
there, 2017, the old network. I just don't think we have the,
it's Hayes Leonard Road.
Tomorrow, I think.
Hey, can you do it on my phone too?
And then this is a concept plan for what it will look like.
Okay.
And Bill, feel free to add anything.
Sure.
And this is the, and that's the plaque. And I believe the plaque's been approved still?
The primary plat has been approved, yes.
Okay, so what we're doing today is Dan is going to be presenting an outline of all of the steps that it will take to get approval for a TIF, should we decide to advance it out of the RDC. Today, we're not voting or anything on approving this or not, because Dan hasn't done any of the work behind the scenes to see if this is something that would be viable, something that would make sense for the county to do. So, did you get them?
No, it doesn't, these won't be up here until tomorrow. So.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Is there any way that you can expand that? Ben, can you?
Only when it's like this can we zoom in a lot. Well, if we go full screen, it just locks it like this.
Dan voted?
We'll try this. I've never worked with a smart screen, but hey, that's how you learn. So we'll go through it. And I'll use my loud voice. My wife says I speak loudly anyway, so I'll be okay. Good afternoon. So I was asked by Mary Jane in order to put together a detailed list of the tasks and all the necessary approvals that would be required for what is known as a home TIF to be approved by the Redevelopment Commission, through the Plan Commission, through the Board of Commissioners, and then coming back for a public hearing and a confirming resolution. And I've done that, and that was provided to you. I don't want to go into too much detail, but if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, because I could sit here and talk for an hour on this. And it is new, so that everybody understands. This is a new process for the state of Indiana and for communities and redevelopment commissions. So there are additional steps that need to be taken. Typically, for a redevelopment commission to create a redevelopment project area as an allocation area, you have to prepare one of three classifications: an urban renewal area, which really isn't done anymore. You have an economic development area or a redevelopment area. You have to prepare a plan. You have to designate that type of classification of area. Then you have to have a plan for that area based upon a concept. However, in the past, residential tax increment financing hasn't been allowed for allocation provisions. The state now allows for this. And so in in that process, it's similar to that, and that is the simplified version. However, they have added a couple of assignments, tasks, and public engagement that's required as part of the process. So what I put together is through Friday, August 6th, to do this before the end of the year to catch the base assessment as of January 1st, 2024, which is really what you want.
By the way, Dan, can you just say, what is the whole reason that the state decided to create this vehicle? What was the impetus behind it? And why is this something that Mr. Ferngren has an interest in with his client, and why we as a county would have an interest in?
So there has been a push from various communities to allow for tax increment financing to be used for residential purposes. Reasons being, as residential development has been occurring, that increases the amount of services that are required by the municipality or the county, and that those, by capturing that allocation, the redevelopment, that allocation, having the allocation provision, and capturing the tax increment revenue, the redevelopment commission can then either incentivize residential development to occur in a targeted area. That's one approach. So in lieu of residential development occurring outside an urban growth boundary, you can then financially incentivize it to be closer to where utilities currently are located. That's one approach. The second approach is to provide for financial incentive to build larger or higher valued homes instead of just packing homes into higher density from land use purpose, so that utilities are provided to a higher population rather than a spread out population.
Now, Attorney McClure may know more, but those are the main two reasons. Am I missing anything? Those are the main two reasons, and then there's ancillary reasons of what you can do with the tax income from that. Yes.
So historically, with TIF districts, they advise not to do residential historically. What makes this so different than a regular TIF that they would do in another development area?
Well, prior to this year, if you were to create a redevelopment area, economic development area, urban renewal area with an allocation provision that included residentially assessed classified property, it is not included in the capture of tax increments for that. So the assessed value is just not captured. The auditor takes that property, residential property, right out. Now you can capture that assessed value for the purposes necessary of the redevelopment commission. In fact, uniquely, you can have a commercial, manufacturing, industrial, redevelopment area and layer the home residential allocation area on top of that to capture everything there. So you can have one on top of the other, which is unusual.
So when did this become available for the first time?
I believe it was July 1st, 2024. Or no, July 1st, 2023 is when it became effective.
And do you know if anybody actually has gone through the process yet to...
Yes, I've assisted the town of Lowell, Indiana. They've done 9 of these so far for development to occur in targeted areas.
Okay.
What they were finding is that developers were looking, half a mile to a mile outside their area of growth, which basically is leapfrogging utilities.
Yeah.
And they incentivize developers to locate their subdivisions closer to the utilities so they wouldn't have to extend the utilities and then have that gap in the middle.
I see.
So that was the purpose why they did 9 of them. And they're closing those out now. So they started right away last August in the process, and then they had all their public engagement in November, and they finalized and confirmed everything in February.
Okay.
And now they're just, they submitted everything to the county, and then I'm finalizing to make sure all the key numbers are right and everything is correct and accurate system to start. Because you want to start out with all the key numbers to be correct first, otherwise you're catching up at the end. So those are the reasons why the state was lobbied to do this. And one of the unique areas is one of the unique uses of the tax increment is it can be used for public safety purposes, serving that allocation area. So any tax increment that's generated can be used to offset any public service, fire, police, emergency services for that allocation area. So that's a good thing. So you have the financial incentive, you have the targeting of residential development closer to utilities, as well as offsetting your existing public safety budget with dollars. Now, in a traditional allocation area, you cannot do that. You cannot use, it's specific in the statute, you cannot use tax increment for maintenance of improvements, or you cannot use them for operating expenses.
Typically, when you do a TIF, a portion of that goes to the schools. Is there a requirement with this for a portion?
No, this is the same as it's under the same criteria as a traditional allocation area.
Okay.
Now, I don't know exactly which portion you're talking about that goes to the schools. There is in the statute 36-7-25, I'm not exactly sure which section, but a redevelopment commission can grant up to 15% of their tax increment to to an educational institution or a worker training program. Now that's a discretion of the redevelopment commission.
It's not a requirement.
Not a requirement. No, it's not. So just to be clear on that, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
But there are redevelopment commissions that do have educational grant programs. The city of Portage, I just assisted them with a program. I worked with Maryville Redevelopment Commission, Colbert, a number of redevelopment commissions to do that. So if you're interested, then I can help with that too. But one thing to also note that typically right now, unless the school has a a cumulative fund, which many don't any longer, or they have a voter referendum obligation outstanding, there is no impact of tax increment financing and allocation provision on the schools. It's all state funded or levy based. Any other questions? Bring it back to the schedule. Okay, so the thought process was to start around July 22nd, which now that date has gone past, but by Friday the 16th, really to understand, get the information from the developer, from the attorney, and from Jane about the information for the Woods Edge Residential Housing Development Program. Basically, that includes the information that was already provided in your packet. What's the area, what's the boundaries, the number of dwelling units, the market price, construction schedule, and when the project would be when the homes would be first assessed. Now, if I don't know the number of homes that are out there. I believe it's 84. So if 30 of them were to be first assessed January 1st, 2026, and then 30 would be 27, and the remaining in 28, we would run the calculations that way to understand what the capacity is for the tax increment to be generated. So we're running a whole analysis to see what your estimated tax increment would be and the cash flows for the next 20 years, or however long the allocation provision would be in the declaratory resolution. I would have all that information ready for you at your August 27th meeting for the consideration review of a declaratory resolution. However, you cannot at that meeting consider it for approval, because part of the uniqueness of the home TIF, which is what it's been named home TIF, is that you have to have this 30-day notice to affected neighborhood associations, to affected residents, and fiscal officers of all the units. So we're preparing that tax impact to all the fiscal officers, whether that's the county, the township, the library, all the overlapping taxing units. So they understand. And we have to give 30 days notice for that, which gets us through having a special meeting on October 1st for the purposes of the public and the individuals to come before you to provide any input on the project, the home program, the redevelopment plan, the boundaries, the impacts, whatever they may have as input, remonstrance, or support of. That opportunity would be provided on October 1st. October 22nd would be the Redevelopment Commission meeting to take action on the declaratory resolution, because at that point you've now met the requirements and criteria for having adequate public input. And now it'll follow your traditional redevelopment plan allocation provision process, where you would have your redevelopment commission meeting to approve a declaratory resolution. That then is sent to the plan commission of the county. The county's plan commission would then consider on October 23rd a written finding of fact and a resolution approving that the declaratory resolution and the plan is consistent with the county's land use development plan. It has nothing to do with the financial implications of an allocation area. It's whether the land use development is consistent with the county's comprehensive or master plan. Once that is completed, they would send...
Who brings that to the plan commission meeting? Who actually makes the presentation there?
So normally, what would happen is that declaratory resolution the next day is forwarded to the plan commission, and then it's placed on their agenda. However, what I normally do is when we prepare the declaratory, I would submit that to them well in advance, so they're aware of that.
Yeah.
We don't want to, I don't like to interject the plan commission afterwards, because if they were to review it and find any instances where we need to amend the redevelopment plan, I'd rather have that done up front rather than have to go back. Because if the plan commission then makes a revision or finds something where it's not in compliance, you have to start the process all over.
Yeah.
It's just inefficient.
So my question is, I'm on the board of the Plan Commission. Who's going to be sitting at the table here explaining this?
Either Mary Jane, myself, or representative of the developer or the developer themselves. Right. Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, we
Yeah.
would be there.
Yes.
At this juncture, though, with what's already presented, hasn't the Plan Commission seen any of this yet?
They would have seen it. I would have provided that to them. In fact, as part of the 30-day notice, here.
But I think to his question, our plan commission has already approved primary plats, and they've
Right.
seen the
Yeah, they've seen it.
subdivision. They haven't
No
seen
surprise.
the idea of
Right.
the residential thing.
Right, and so what could come up making it a TIF versus what they've already seen?
It's a tax increment financing
still a
is a
planning
financial
commission
issue, not a
decision,
land
right?
use issue.
Under normal circumstances, I don't think the code was written to anticipate primary plat already being approved. Under normal circumstances, this would be on the leading, this would be going before we got to there.
Right.
So that's the difference. So to answer your question now, I can't see much of a roadblock. It's already got primary plat approval,
Yeah.
but still a hurdle on the list to check off.
We do have to check the list on that, so it does,
Yeah,
the planning
okay,
commission
I-
does have to take that written.
I was trying to
finding
figure
action.
out why would a planning commission who's already seen the thing would have any issue with it now?
And that's a good point, because as Attorney McClure stated, usually this is done on the front end, not
Gotcha.
after
Okay.
the primary plat's been
And
approved.
then, Dan, can I ask one more thing? Since
Sure.
I know you're Mr. Financial. When will we actually, and Attorney McClure and I were talking about this, I would really like to see a nice diagram
Mhm.
of the money flows and how, once you get your analysis done,
Right.
showing how the mechanics of it.
Right.
Okay.
And that's all shown in the analysis that we do. So it'll show when the units are assessed, and how the calculation of the tax increment is generated, and when
But
it...
even before that, the bond and, how that all,
Okay. If there is a bond issued, I can speak with Attorney McClure and go
Yeah.
through that process.
Well, let's try to talk about that. In this particular scenario, would we have a bond?
Well, I guess it's probably bond issued, but development purchase bond.
Right.
I guess is what I would envision.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so I think we can use that template to her question.
Right.
Not at the level of tax neutralization and the
No,
auditor's
no, no.
office, but at the level of who goes and gets the bond, who
Right.
buys the bond,
That's what you need to know.
how does that bond get paid back? If we could have that for a couple of
Gotcha. So what I'll do on the front end is show the cash flows, and then what I can do is show a typical obligation and an amortization schedule that would show what the bond capacity is. And then I can have a very simplified diagram that shows, here's when it's paid, here's the distribution of tax increment, here's the bondholder being paid, here's
Yeah.
when it would end.
and I know we won't need that at the planning commission, but I know we'll want that at the commissioners meeting. We definitely want to, the commissioners are all going to want to make sure.
Right.
Does this make sense for the county?
Exactly. No, that's fine, we can do that, that's not an issue. So that would get us to the redevelopment commission, the plan commission on the 23rd. On the 29th, the board of commissioners, because the plan commission is advisory to the county, the board of commissioners would have to then approve their action as in compliance with the master plan or comprehensive plan. Once they've taken action, the redevelopment commission back their meeting on the 22nd, assuming the schedule remains the same, and based upon when the commissioners would meet and the 10-day notice requirement, there would, at your November 26th meeting, there would be a public hearing scheduled. So you would schedule that, preliminarily schedule it for the 26th, assuming everything happens after and subsequently according to the schedule. And then on Tuesday, the 26th, the redevelopment commission would hold its plenary meeting or meeting such as this, full meeting, and hold your public hearing on the redevelopment plan, on the redevelopment area, the redevelopment plan, and the Woods Edge application area, and confirm that everything that happened before did occur according to state statute, and everything was done according to the process necessary, and then approve a confirming resolution. That's all the confirming resolution does. It's very simple, usually 2 pages, that says you've met all the criteria, you did everything according to state statute. And that really ends the process, because at that point, then the redevelopment commission can work with the developer in scheduling bonds to be issued in the name of the redevelopment commission or the redevelopment authority, however that's going to work. Typically, in this case, it might be an economic development revenue bond that the redevelopment commission would pledge the tax increment to a Porter County economic development revenue bond, and then it's issued by the county with the pledge of the tax increment. Very simply,
At
taking
what
money
point
from-
in time does the auditor get brought into this conversation since,
So that's the next step.
okay.
So once all that is done, and we can bring in the auditor prior to, but once that is completed on the 26th, normally it takes time to get all the paperwork and all the filings. I prepare similar to a bond transcript, an approval process transcript, so that all the meeting minutes, all the approvals, all the resolutions are in one packet, and then those are submitted to the auditor by the 20th of December. And then typically I will meet with the auditor to go through the process to make sure all of the key numbers are uploaded correctly in the system. And then there's a tax increment revenue, or tax increment TIF report that's created that'll show January 1st, 2024 is the base year. And then I will check it to make sure so that on January 1st, 2025, everything is in the system ready to go. And then I provide that to you, and then the auditor knows. And in addition to that, the same transcript and information needs to be provided to the DLGF electronically so that they have it in their system.
And
They
who
can
is
make it-
responsible for that, the auditor or you?
Typically, I take care of that, to get that over to either the attorney does that or I do it. Normally, I would do that. It's a letter that goes over to the DLGF, and then it's certified mail, so then they send it back to me stamped. So you'll have on the declaratory, or on the confirmatory resolution, you'll have the stamp of the reporter, you'll have the stamp of the auditor, bless you, and you'll have the stamp of the DLGF. So that when bonds are issued, that transcript is then turned over to bond counsel, and they will need all that information in order to ensure that this was done correctly so that the bonds can be issued in accordance to law. So the intent is to have this all done by Tuesday the 26th, and that really completes the approval process. And normally what I do is, for me, you can see on the right where it'll show everybody's responsibilities, who's involved from the Redevelopment Commission, Plan Commission, Board of Commissioners, the Auditor's Office, or me helping out and being part of the process and assisting. Now, at the end of it, and this is always helpful, are all the meeting schedules and the commissioners. I did make a correction to this. That is not 4:30, it's not 4 o'clock, so I did correct that. But this is important for bond counsel, because they'll need that information. It's been more specific to the Board of Commissioners and to the Redevelopment Commission. If and when bonds are issued, they would need that information so they know what the meeting schedule is, and they have that individual thing notified.
With your schedule laid out the way it is, where can things go sideways or slippage?
Normally, the slippage occurs if the Plan Commission has a deadline for placing information on their agenda, if it's 20 or 30 days in advance, or if the Board of Commissioners or Municipal Council has a 2 to 3 week advance notice. Typically, most of the municipalities I work with, theirs are usually the Wednesday, Thursday before. However, I'll give an example. The city of Gary, you have to have, for their planning commission, you have to have it in 30 days in advance. And then their city council is 30 days in advance. So it delays a lot.
21.
Or it's 21? Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
And if their meetings aren't lined right, it can go out 8, 9 months to get this process done, which normally can be done in 4 to 5, 6 months.
Beth, do we have any special for a transaction of this nature, for getting on the commissioner's agenda, for advertisement purposes? Okay. Can I ask you?
Nothing abnormal.
Okay. Typically, a TIF is 20 years. Is this a 20-year TIF?
Well, by statute, it can be 25 years. I don't recommend that, only because if you're going to issue bonds 25 years, the interest after years 20, 21 through 25, you're paying interest on money that's not worth it. So normally, if it's a very large project, it's a 20-year allocation provision. Now, depending on the desire of the redevelopment commission and the commissioners, I've seen allocation provisions and for as few as 7 years to 10 years. It's what you choose. It does not have to be at that 25 years total.
Is there any kind of plan, it's 3 phases for 91 homes. Is there a build-out anticipation?
The way that the site's set up, it's really going to all be done as part of one phase.
Okay.
And really market absorption. Coleman Communities is the primary builder right now, and I think with the information I provided, they're looking at 10 to 15 homes potentially a year. It just depends on.
It's a 10-year, it's a projected 10-year.
Yeah, I think, to answer your question, yes.
And how long of a TIF/bond are you thinking of right now?
Well, I mean, up to the 20 years, but we'd have to review that, just to see what makes the most sense.
Okay, and your projections are going to be based on 20 years?
Yes, I mean, I go up to 25.
Yeah.
My model goes out.
I don't like going beyond 20
Yeah.
years.
Well,
20
I'm just saying that my model goes
Yeah.
out 25.
Okay.
I just don't use those years.
Yeah.
I very rarely use them, in fact, very rare. In fact, I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't think there's been a bond that's been issued for 25 years, greater than 20 years.
So since this is relatively new, is there anything then in subsequent years that has to be done? Any special reporting or anything?
The only reporting that's required by the state would be for the annual capture notice to ensure, and that's why I work with you normally in April and May. That's due by June 1st to June 15th. That's the only requirement, to ensure that the amount is captured. The assessment is captured annually through the allocation provision. Now, in addition to that, I normally recommend that if a bond were to be issued, that we track the amount of tax increment and then the payments on the tax increment to determine to make sure there's a sufficiency or insufficiency. And if there is a sufficiency of tax increment, and that should be written into the trust agreement. I mean, it could be, it doesn't have to be. But it could be written in, whereas if there's tax increment surplus, you can early redeem the bond prior to maturity in any 1 year, so that you can pay off the bond quicker. And I've done that for a number of clients, because if you pay off the bond sooner from tax increment surplus, that way, not only does the assessed value roll on quicker, but you're saving money on interest. So one client saved almost $800,000 in interest payments just on paying it off 5 years early. So I recommend that you check that also.
On this schedule, you have one special meeting on October 1st.
Right.
But you have a big gap between the 27th of August and October 1st. Is there any way to pull that forward some?
That was the 30-day notice. That's why. So August 22nd takes you to September 27th, and then it was just following the next Tuesday. So you have to have that 30-day notice in there.
But it could be on the September 27th?
You can do it right away, but Plan Commission's still going to meet on the same date. So,
Well,
yeah.
no, because the October 1st date is a special meeting of the commission.
Start digging this. I feel like a weather person. Or when they do the election results on.
It's item 4.0. It's up 4.0.
Sorry. That's 4.0 special.
Yeah.
And then you have the gap between here.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the gap there. I'm worried about October 1st, if it could be On the,
So the gap between here
yeah, could it be on the 27th?
could be as long as you have 30 days notice.
Okay.
I typically go on 31 just for the sake of having that extra day. Even if it's a 10-day notice, I normally go 11 days because some bond counsel attorneys say, do you count the day of the meeting or don't you count the day of the meeting? I don't count it because it's not a full day, but I defer to attorneys on that.
So we could even have a special meeting in August to pull that,
Sure.
like August 15th, to pull everything forward. Because I know you're trying to hit scheduled meetings.
Right. And the only important date to have this all done is by the declaratory is to have that done before December 31st. So you're
Well, I
capturing
understood
that
that.
January 1st, 2024 date.
It's just that, I think on October 1st, I'll actually be in Egypt, and I don't want to not have you have people here for a meeting. So-
But, and in all honesty, we're not ready to worry, we're
It's not
not,
declaratory.
we need to know what the schedule looks like,
Right.
but we're not ready to put the race cars on the track.
Right.
Okay.
We need to get through the nitty-gritty of, obviously need to understand the process.
Right.
Which is what we're doing.
Yes.
But at some point, we gotta get the numbers.
Right.
And the projections, and then sit back down and go, to the commissioner's point, does this make sense?
Sure.
At that point, if it's greenlit, then it will be back to Dan, how can we make this schedule work the best and get this done from point A to point B? I think they had to use a schedule in real time with real
Right.
dates to show, it does take some time
Oh,
from
yeah.
start to
Oh.
finish.
It does take-
But,
Very helpful.
we're not at that stage of, let's roll.
Yeah, if you miss the December date, it slides into January.
Your base date now becomes January 1st, 2024, which I don't think is going to be an issue because they're not moving dirt out there. And
No, there is some dirt, but I
would any
don't,
homes be done by
not, certainly
December
not done.
31st, 2025?
By December 31st of '25, I would suspect that they would be. I would think.
So you want to capture this year?
Yeah, I mean, if we could, this year would be great. I mean, but we can only do what we can do.
Right.
I think the goal is that construction of homes would likely start in the spring of '25. So there's a lot of work to do.
And the
out
base
there.
date is contingent upon the declaratory, not the confirmatory.
Right.
Once you do the declaratory, you're okay. But something to consider, and I'll have to speak with Attorney McClure on this, is that public informational meeting, I had it as a special meeting of the redevelopment commission. I don't know if it has to be a special meeting. It has to be a meeting where you take input of individuals in the public. So it's not for any other, it
But it still has
wouldn't be
to
for
be-
any other purpose than.
What would be an extra meeting, so we're calling it a special meeting?
Yes,
That's
exactly.
fine, but it still has to have a 30-day notice.
Yes, yes.
That's-
Now, at that point, we're not voting on anything,
No,
right?
not
So
voting.
if you're in Egypt, we don't,
Yeah, okay.
that would be
There's
okay.
no vote happening
This
on
is,
that day.
and who presents at that meeting? Who all presents at that meeting? Do we have?
I would have the developer here,
I'll be
Okay.
here.
the attorney, I would be here.
Okay.
I'd answer any questions, Mary Jane, Attorney
And
McClure, in case there's any
Would you
questions.
anticipate, I mean, this is not the world's best kept secret or anything, people all around.
Yeah,
Are
we've
aware
had
of it.
a public hearing several years ago on the project.
Yeah.
So that if this is rolled out, the primary plat's been approved, had public hearings. So I'm not familiar with any of the property owners know that the OTIF is being considered, but it's not material to their,
Right.
to the project itself, because nothing from the project perspective has changed.
Right. So at this juncture, you wouldn't expect pitchforks, torches?
Well, I've been in this room a lot of times, I wouldn't expect that.
You never know.
But I think,
Okay.
again, materially, the project itself, from all the nuts and bolts with respect to why those people who had questions about it, nothing's changed from that. Or from the-
Now, do you think people are going to object to the fact that this is a TIF? I mean, do you think that's why people might come? What would?
Yes.
Okay.
From my experience, that's
Okay.
the most important.
Okay.
Why are we subsidizing financially
Okay.
a project? Or financially, I'll say it this way, financially incentivizing a project. That's usually the, but if we do our jobs and provide the necessary information and accurate information, very few people show up.
So the project's gonna go whether it was TIF or not. You've already busted roads down there, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You already have roads going in, you got
They
gravel?
don't have any roads yet. There's some entrance, if you recall the plat that was shown, there's an entrance way off of Joliet Road. And
Yeah.
on both sides of that entrance road, there's some detention basin areas. Some of that earthwork has been done. It's been mostly tree clearing at this point, so.
But I'm just saying, if the TIF wasn't available, the project would go anyway, it looks like.
Perhaps, yes. I mean, I can't say 100%, but yeah, they're moving forward. There's no doubt about that. And they're excited about doing it, and this is just taking this much time to get it going.
Okay.
Is there something significant about the green space down the corner?
No, that's, if you look at this,
That's a pond. Is it a pond?
this is just open area here with some detention basin, yes. And then this is Joliet Road in this
Yeah,
location. These two areas have been worked on, and some of this tree clearing on sites.
But this, it just looks like it's just flat land right now.
Yes.
It's wetland, but you're gonna turn it into a...
Detention area.
Okay.
And so, Bill, has everything been approved through, everything has been approved through the plan department?
Not entirely yet. The primary plat has been done. There were some items that were remaining. We met a few months ago on some of those. My understanding is all that's been
But you got
situated.
your conformance there, some stormwater.
Yeah, and I don't know that the official IDOT has been done, but yeah, there's substantial conformance for sure.
I think it's just the second, and this is the PUD, correct?
I don't know.
It shows up as PUD.
Okay, then it is, yeah, it's been several years since I've worked on the zoning component of it.
What that's PUD?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, okay.
It is, I pulled it up.
Yeah, so working with follow-up engineering, substantial conformance of those letters, as Mr. David indicated, have been issued. So is the project ready to go?
All right, so what do we need to do to get down to the numbers? We need something from them?
I have all the information.
All right, so
Yeah, I
you're,
just need
we're,
the authorization to go ahead.
okay.
That's it.
So the clock's ticking.
No, we need a motion in a second to say go do it.
Or just say go, I'm under
Go.
contract with the redevelopment.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to initiate the study for having a residential TIF for Woods Edge.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Dan, I'll reach out to you tomorrow. All right, have a great night. Thank you.
Well, it's kind of fun being on the cutting edge of something brand new, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And I'm really glad that you've already gone through this before, so we're not all cutting our
Grant
teeth.
application.
At least somebody's been through this before.
Yes, that's a good thing.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is the grant application that we have for the Portage Township Schools. The first TIF district that we have is the South Haven TIF. It's generated some income this year. The income and amount that's available and designated to the school after the June settlement is $957.77. In order to come up with some process to have the school submit an application for projects, we created an application based on application from the city of Valparaiso, and that's what's before you. It basically asks for a description of the project, the intended expenses and the estimated cost of the project. It lists that some of the funds may be used specifically for art or as matched to state or private grants, if the school corporation is so interested in doing so. Then it also asks to explain how this project may advance methods or technologies that offers students an education that is competitive in the global economy. And the final question is, how does the project enhance problem-solving, collaboration, and skills of the student? The application would be submitted by the school superintendent, and then presented to you for consideration and approval would be the proposed process.
I assume that's the typo on the bottom of the name?
On the bottom. That is, I'll fix that.
Okay.
So if the commission would like to approve the application, then I will share it with the school superintendent in discussions about potential uses of the current funds or whether they would prefer to
Just
hold on to
roll
the
them.
funds.
Just roll them over or something? That's another option. Just roll them in funds. Do we have to present this to them annually and give them the option of taking it, or can we just decide to hold on to them?
Well, you could decide to hold on to it. I would just like.
It just
to-
seems like it's such a small dollar amount. Do they really want to mess around with this at this
I think
time?
what I wanted to do is let her know that this is the process and this is how the funds will be available. You'll have a spring draw, you'll have a fall draw. She can call, or I can call, or I can share the numbers with them.
What does everybody think?
We want to maintain the schools not being upset with our redevelopment commission. When schools get upset with the redevelopment commission, it causes us much problem. So even if it's procedural at this point, I would suggest reaching out to this Portage School.
Correct.
Yeah, Portage Tip. I would at least reach out and let them know the process is there. We just don't want any problems moving forward.
Okay.
And in the past with TIFs, whether they were residential, which they weren't, or whatever, there was a lot of, there's a history of consternation between schools and TIFs. So my best advice would be to steer out of it as much as possible.
Okay. So today you want us to vote to approve this form and then you'll proceed?
Yes, I'll set up a meeting with the superintendent and
Okay.
explain
Okay.
the process and where the funds are coming from and how they flow.
Okay.
And they have never done this form before?
No.
We're approving this form today.
I know, but
We've never had a TIF
oh,
with them.
with them, okay. I was just trying to figure out, why this seemed like this had all been...
We're really in our infancies at this time.
It's all brand new. It's all brand new to you. Never
It's
had.
awful, I mean, everything's a tip.
I know.
In every
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah. Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the grant application form. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the Business Council Roundtable discussion.
Okay, so one of the things that I had really hoped that we could do through the RDC is to get a better understanding of business owners and what they perceive as things that could make their lives better in terms of building their business, or the impediments that they see that are preventing them from growing. And one of the things that Bill and I learned through SCORE is, just dealing with business owners, and a lot of times they have information, because they're right at the front lines, like they're making little micro pivots every day, and they don't even realize that they're on the leading edge of the economy. And they actually feel the effects of that before we ever even realize what's going on. So I thought it would be interesting if we could develop this business council and have a roundtable with them, potentially on a quarterly basis, although if we're trying to get this launched this year, we would try to meet with them in October and November, because it will take us a bit to get this set up. I have a roundtable that I do quarterly with the township trustees, and it is amazing what happens when you bring people together and you have a conversation, and how much they appreciate it, that they get to be in a room with maybe not necessarily their exact peers, but they get to have conversations like this with the RDC, and that somebody really cares about what they think. Because usually business owners aren't consulted about what they think. And we could kind of model it after that. There are 12 townships in Porter County, And we could potentially invite a business owner from each of the different townships so that we could get coverage from the entire county and trying to really, because really, South County, very different from Valparaiso, very different from Portage, very different from Duneland, very different. So, and we have a business owner right here, so.
We got our first member.
The other idea is if, like, Valparaiso, Portage, and I don't know if Duneland has an RDC, that we actually have, as part of that business council, we invite the head of the RDCs that are already in the county and have them be a part of it as well. Because they also are representing a number of different businesses, not just one business. But I just wanted to throw it out there and see what you thought. Mary Jane actually sent some information about businesses in different townships and how we might approach people. I don't think it's going to be effective if we try to get too many business owners in this roundtable.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
What I did was I just sorted the business data that we got from the county on the number of businesses. I sorted it by township, so you can kind of see where these businesses land. You have about 8 townships where the businesses reside, and then you have about 4 townships where none of those businesses resided. Morgan, Liberty.
But Morgan really should have at least one business.
So we would have to go, and I'm sure they have businesses for whatever, they just did not show up on that list that we got from the council. So, anybody has any thoughts on persons, businesses, send them our way?
Well,
and
let's
so on.
let's just talk about this concept and see if you even like this idea. Because I think quarterly, then, we could invite them to our meeting, we could conduct our business, have it be more abbreviated, and then we could have the business roundtable as part of our meeting. And we could have different topics for discussion. It would only be quarterly, except for this year, when we're just trying to kick it off and trying to get some momentum, because we won't be able to meet in December. That's a very bad month to try to meet with anybody.
We had also said that our normal meeting, the council's afterwards. So we couldn't have, unless we just have, like you said, an abbreviated regional commission meeting.
Well, and the other thing that we would have to, on those days, we would have to have it not on a Tuesday because the county council meets in here, and we would probably bump into their meeting. So we would have to have it on a Wednesday or Thursday. We wouldn't be able to have it on a Tuesday. And actually, the reason that this meeting is on a Tuesday is because we have a council member, and typically this would be the day that they would have their council meeting, and so if they were coming to this meeting, then they would be having another meeting and wouldn't be making 2 separate trips for 2 different meetings. So do you think this is something that we should pursue?
I do. I think it'd be interesting to get some feedback from other businesses.
Yeah. Trying to imagine how you go about either selecting or having them self-select and volunteer. Populated even just 12 people. How you're going to go through that process. Once you get the group together, then that's fine. I just wasn't sure how you're going to come up with the selection process, or you don't want to send it out to the whole list here and say who wants to volunteer, because you don't know what you'll get then.
Well, the other thing is we could just have Mary Jane pick a representative sample of businesses in Porter County and start reaching out and asking them if they would be interested.
Well, is there any other forum? I mean, you got Rotary, you got all these other things, you got the chambers. Is there any other way we can figure out who might be, I guess, good representatives of their territory, if you will?
Well, the problem is that we only have chambers in Duneland, Portage, and Valparaiso. So we could certainly get recommendations, but then we have other areas where we don't have chambers. South County is completely without any sort of chamber representation whatsoever.
within the, like Hebron down there, I just happen to have that on the list here.
Yeah.
What would be another, I don't know, organization, whether it's the city council or whoever else is down there that,
Well, they do have a town council down there.
yeah,
Well, they do, and I do believe they do have a chamber.
Oh, really?
Hebron has a chamber.
yeah, a lot of these are,
It's very small.
Phone booth only
And, run by
chambers.
volunteers, but it exists.
yeah,
And Couts may have something similar too, so we can reach out to them and find out.
yeah.
And we could, chamber members, chambers like the Dunland or Valparaiso, they do have members that are within the county.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We can certainly reach out to those chambers and ask them what businesses are members that are within the county and not within the DSM.
Because what I'm trying to imagine is that you want somebody who knows enough about their area to represent the area appropriately.
Right.
On the flip side, you don't want to have everybody be an 800-pound gorilla in the room fighting over whatever it is, you know, or, you know, kind of hogging the conversation, and just trying to imagine.
This would kind of be like a super chamber, because,
Yeah.
you know, Valparaiso, they do attract people outside because it's a good business opportunity. But it would be nice to get good representation, and I just arbitrarily said, hey, let's see if we can find a business from each of the townships.
Yeah, well, I think that.
And then that really
appropriate.
forces us to, now, we might have townships that don't have a single business in them. We might, I don't know.
And
I
I
don't
can
know.
also reach out to the trustees that we meet with. I know Matt Kaiser in Liberty Township could be able to tell us if they're
Yeah.
doing business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that try to figure out the avenues where you can kind of get some people.
That's a
to-
really good point. Let's check after this, because I have a distribution list for all of the township trustees. I could give that to you, and you could just reach out and say, hey, we're trying to form this business council, and we're looking to have somebody, a representative from each of the different townships. Would you have a recommendation?
Yeah, that'd be, to me, the right way to do it. You know, they kind of self-select and, you know, and come to the meeting knowing that that's their purpose, and, you know, that whoever recommended them, you know, trust them with representing that corner of the universe.
Yeah. Well, so often we hear from the standards. You hear from the businesses in Valparaiso, you hear from the businesses in Union, you hear from the businesses in...
Yeah.
But a lot of times you don't hear from the outliers.
All right, I think it's fine. You know, I'm used to thinking of it as the county, you know, you're so tied to Valpo that, you know, it kind of becomes overshadowing.
Well, can we authorize Mary Jane to go forward with this and to come back with what she perceives are 12 good candidates so that we could get this going quicker?
Well, yeah, I think if you were going to do it, you know, see if they have a first choice and an alternate. You know, because
Yeah.
you just don't know what you're going
Right.
to get.
Right. Okay, great. Now, Mike's been waiting this whole time patiently. He hasn't totally fallen asleep. But he has a really exciting idea, I think. I can't wait for us to be able to do this, because, you know, I was just talking, and I very specifically said the word, we're in our infancy, because he is suggesting that we go see a place where the TIFs in the county are actually, you know, they started where we were, but they're much more mature in terms of their TIFs. So, turning it over to Mike.
Yeah, I had some, in my previous career, I had some relationships with many cities, towns, and counties throughout the state area. And it started when I was at a conference recently with former Commissioner of St. Joe County, Andy Fiscali. We're sitting there talking, he used to be a commissioner, right in the day when they started that big, what do they call that, Mary Jane, it's out by your house, what was that big economic development area? Do you have a name for that?
Are you talking about the new Carlisle tip or the?
Yeah.
The Enterprise, it's called the Enterprise area.
So sometimes it's more than a tip, it's other things. It's the one you read in the paper where Amazon's going in with an $11 billion data center, and some other data center with not quite as much, but huge is going in. Plus, they're doing a lot of other stuff. And the firm I'm working with did help them with a lot of the pre-planning. And it's not going there to see something like that, because that would be great, but I think it's beyond our wildest imaginations at this point. But talking with Andy, he said they have other tip areas that are a more moderate scale, something that they started with early on. Then we got together, Carl Baxmeyer took his place on the commissioners, so I started talking with Carl. And Carl especially would like to host us to come over and visit with them. And they have a redevelopment commission director, Bill Shalley, and they've checked with him. He'd be willing to entertain us. And what I'm kind of envisioning here is, we rent a bus, a little mini bus or something, so we can meet and talk on the way to and from. Maybe box lunches or have things brought in where we're going to land, visit their offices, kind of get background history, what their problems were, what their challenges are, how it affects their elected officials and all. And then go on a tour of some of the sites. I think I'd like to finish where they're doing all the work, but they tell me they have other sites we can go to. I haven't pinpointed them yet, but something that's probably something that's attainable for us. But I think it would be a good experience because a lot of you are first-time members of the Redevelopment Commission and all to kind of see. Now, we could go to a lot of cities and towns that got some successful tips, Valparaiso, successful initial office, successful. There are many, many, many others, but cities are different than counties, as we found out. And we've got a lot of people wanting to come develop in Porter County with their businesses, and we get calls all the time. And some of the biggest problems is the county is not well served by sanitary and water utility. And so that's kind of a deal breaker in some cases. But sometimes we can be creative, depending on the circumstances. But what I propose is, they've said that any Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as long as we tell them in advance. Commissioner said Monday's out because she's got prior engagements on those days, and I'm thinking it's an hour plus there, hour plus back, a little over. And I'm thinking, maybe a 5-6 hour jaunt. We could leave morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, be back by middle afternoon. Maybe we could get one of our guests to ride with us in the bus, so once we hit the county line, we can start talking while we're moving around, visit offices. And depending on how many members, and I'd like to include some non-members such as staff, or maybe someone from the auditor's office or something like that that you think might be critical, just to kind of get a flavor of what it is and see, and then something we can bring back here, you guys can use in your discussions and dreams and all that kind of stuff. So I have not made any commitments. That's kind of as far as it's gone right now. I'd like to see what the commission's interest is in something like that. And I asked Scott the question on majorities, so I don't know if that's something that we'll look at.
I'm still working on that.
What we're hoping to do is to have some sort of an exception where we can call this a workshop or something, so that we can all be in the same bus together. And the other thing that Mike had suggested is maybe we go over to the commissioner's office and kind of have maybe eat lunch there, have a presentation there, kind of get, level set, ask all of our questions, and then when we get out into the field, we're going to have a better idea what we're looking at.
Yeah, it's totally flexible. I priced them like a 9-person van, which is, you're all sitting facing forward, versus I get a 12-person bus, which we can sit, face each other, have conversations back and forth. The pricing and getting those anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200. Get box lunches, drinks such as water and stuff like that. I'm guessing $1,300, $1,500 to do it. Again, if only 3 people want to go, then I see no sense getting a bus. We can get a van. But each of these cases, these are driven for they're driven for us, we don't have to drive or worry about that. So, I guess tonight is just gauging an interest. Summer is gonna be over before we know it, but certainly we can go late August, September, I'm thinking. If you wanna wait as long as October, we can do that too. It all depends on what your mood is, and whether or not you like the idea in the first place.
I really like the idea. I don't know about you, what do you think?
I'd go, sure.
Do you have a preference on a day of Wednesday or Friday?
Wednesday?
Wednesday? I'm good on Wednesday.
So I'd like the opportunity, maybe we could poll the other members that aren't here tonight, to kind of engage with staff. I'm sure Mary Jane, myself, Scott would probably like to go. There are probably some other county staff members that would like to go. Then we can decide what kind of vehicle would be appropriate for that.
Well, the one thing I wanted to make sure is that we want to have somebody that's a microphone, so that if you've got a bigger that if you're talking and you're driving, that you can actually hear. Because I've been on these tours before like this, and you couldn't understand what people were saying.
This isn't like a school bus where you want to get out. This is where you're facing each other. You're
Okay.
actually sitting on the side
Yeah.
facing each other.
Yeah, that would be better.
So I don't know if you need an approval
We do.
for the amounts up to a certain maximum amount.
What are you saying, what would be
No more
reasonable?
than, say, $1,500, it'd be less.
How about we say no more than 2,000 to give
Yep.
us latitude?
Yep.
We don't have to have a special meeting,
Right.
find something out.
Right,
And that way, obviously, Mr. Jabel will do what he can to keep the costs under control, but it's easier to have more authority than you need
yep,
than to come back and try to get a special meeting.
sure. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve $2,000 for a field trip to St. Joe County. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is going to be really interesting. Okay, any other items? Anybody have anything else they'd like to talk about, or ideas you would like to explore in the future? Okay, now is the time for public comment. Be sure. If you don't want to talk, or just say hi. All right. Our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 at 4 p.m., and we are in recess. Thank you, everyone.